Hey, this is More Than Velocity. I'm Bart Pear here with Jordan Osagara, and today we have Mark Sheehan, who is in Illinois, runs Canes, Illinois, and Evolution Athletics, and has been around baseball for many, many years. Jordan actually knows Mark from way, way back. Mark's coaches pitchers and athletes at all levels, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So, Mark, why don't you quickly just kind of explain how you got into the
Yeah.
coaching thing, and
Right.
maybe we can go into where you met Jordan and all that.
Yeah. Sounds good. As I was just mentioning to Jordan, I had no intentions of doing baseball for a living, coaching baseball, training baseball players. But back in 2004, my 8-year-old nephew made an all-star travel team, and my brother-in-law asked me if I'd come down and help them with practice because he knew I pitched in high school and a little bit in college. And so I went down to the first practice and realized I didn't know anything about pitching or how to train pitchers. So I did a little research and I talked to, all the noted gurus, Mike Marshall, who was actually our pitching coach at St. Cloud State my freshman year of college. Um, Mike Marshall and Dick Mills and all, everybody else that was putting themselves out there as pitching gurus. And then I came across Tom's stuff, and my education was in science, so it immediately connected with me. And then I went and saw Tom. He
Tom
did
House,
the
you mean?
Tom House, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Um, I went out and visited Tom when he came up to the Joliet area and did a clinic. And from that minute on, I was hooked. So I started going out to coaches certifications in San Diego at that time when Tom was based there, and then the subsequent move to USC, and that's where I met Jordan back in about 2005. And my part-time gig of helping pitchers went from 12 8-year-olds to 35 kids, doing it all in my backyard. And it got to the point where they wanted more and more. So I turfed my basement, and we did everything down there. It was 54 feet in length. So I had just enough to train kids 13 and under, which was my client base at that time. And then we did, all of Tom's, the NPA bands and weighted balls and med ball routines and, dumbbell stuff. So it turned into a full-time gig real quick. And I think within about 2 years, I opened up an academy and been doing it full time ever since. So it's been wonderful. I feel honored to be able to do what I'm doing and help these kids, realize their dreams in the baseball world.
Yeah, not just helping kids, but one of the things you do really well is you don't kind of, you know, in a sense, honk your own horn. But you're not just working with like 8 through 12-year-olds and high school kids. You have a pretty healthy stable of major league players. We're not going to obviously mention names because I know that's not necessarily up your
Right.
alley, but you have a pretty healthy stable of major leaguers that come through your doors as well. So I don't think that's something that needs to be left out.
Yeah.
But it's intriguing because it's not just like, oh yeah, this basement facility that turned into what it is now is still
Yeah.
impacting guys at the highest level of the game.
It is. You're right. Yeah, I have a pretty wide range of clients, and I've got 4 coaches underneath me that I've been training over the years. So we have a pretty good stream of kids coming through the academy. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and if you
been.
don't mind, I know you've done a little bit of stuff as like a almost like a consultant in pro ball as well with a couple of organizations. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, that was mostly with when I was with Tom. Um, Unfortunately, the major league clubs, I'm sure you know more than I do about it, so having worked for the Angels. But baseball is the last of major sports to embrace science and technology. So it was like we were talking 2 different languages, really, and trying to get them to understand how we can help them, how we can benefit the entire organization just by keeping their guys healthy, um, was a struggle more than anything. So um, I've had, um, yeah, quite a bit of interaction with a few teams, just kind of helping them with 1 or 2 pitchers maybe in their organization. Some of them are reluctant to do that. They kind of want to keep it in-house, so to speak. So it's unfortunate because I think what you and I've been exposed to over the years, I just don't think there's anything better in baseball. And my favorite saying is there's a lot of pitching coaches out there that are way better than I am, but nobody has better information, especially when it comes to training and developing pitchers and keeping them healthy, really.
Mm-hmm.
And now with your arm care program, I mean, it's just kind of put everything I do on steroids. And I've only been using it for about 3 months, I think, so far.
Yeah, right in that range. Yeah. I mean, you've been using it for 3 months, but it folds into a lot of that old information that you and I got kind of taught on as coaches, and how to use that information. And, it's saying that it took what you do and it puts it on steroids. Before we get into like the arm care aspect of it, I know Bart is like this is the first time he's met you. But I want you to go over a little bit like what is it that you do? Kind of what's a general, training philosophy? Yeah. How do you develop your players? And then I know Bart's probably going to have a lot of questions. He's got 2 twin boys that are getting into baseball that he's going to ship out to Illinois at some point from Florida. So if you don't mind going in, like what is your basic kind of general training program? Then how do you fold arm care into that?
Okay. So the first thing I do when I'm onboarding a new client is I put them through about an hour evaluation, and we screen them for movement efficiency. We measure them for their genetic potential, their point in time capacity, what they're capable of doing that day. And then we try to gauge we also have some tests to gauge what their weak links are, or weak link is, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And then, after we get them through all that, we put them through a proper warm-up. I'll pop them up on the mound and literally have them throw just 2 or 3 pitches, take some video, and then we break down their mechanics. And we focus on what they do well, but also what they don't do well, what areas they need help in. They're only as efficient as their worst movement. So that's kind of where we focus on from there. And that little evaluation kind of creates a blueprint, if you will, for what they're capable of there, and depending on what their goals are, this is how we're going to get to what try to help you attain your goals. And it might be one step, it might be 3 or 4 different things. But and then from that point, most of my regular clients come in about once a week for a lesson. And after they reach a certain level of familiarity with terminology and drills and whatnot, I have a class that I run that meets 3 times a week for 90 minutes, and we do everything there: mechanics, core, flexibility, mobility. I have a chiropractor who comes in. I have a yoga instructor. I mean, we kind of, we throw everything at them, and that class has developed quite a few elite athletes. I've kind of started that program, probably 8-9 years ago, when I didn't have enough time to see enough people. So I thought, all right, well, they learn better in a group environment anyway. Let's put together a class where we can get 20 or 30 kids in here. And it's myself, a couple of my other instructors. I have a strength coach who's in there working with them. And we all kind of just bounce around, and guys jump from station to station, and they work on what they need to work on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very organic from, I've seen you kind of do things here and there a little bit. Obviously never been, boots on ground with you there in Illinois, but I've seen you work at some of those clinics with Tom on those coaches certs. And it's very, very clear instruction, very concise. And one thing I like that you're saying is you're giving these guys an evaluation. And one of the biggest issues that I think is going on in what I'll call modern baseball coaching, I guess is the best way to put it, is a guy comes in, whether it's facility, team, high school program, college program, professional baseball, wherever you're at. This guy comes in, it's day 1, and the coach is already telling you, here's your 15 adjustments you need to make today. It's like, well, where are we getting this information from? Bad instruction could be better than no instruction, but bad instruction that's unguided is very dangerous when it comes down to it. And, that's one of the things that I really like that you do is you're putting out a plan, you're putting out that blueprint, you have the foundation, and you go, if it's, we're filming this on November 21st, if it's November 21st, you're getting that new guy in the door, you're getting all these measures, and you're going, I know where you're at. It might be your best day ever. It might be your worst day, but we have a starting point. We're going to go over a blueprint. You're going to lay that out. get the athlete's input, and then let's start moving forward. And as they progress, it's not just like you're once a week coming in. As they progress, you're like, now here's our Rolls Royce option, where you have a chiropractor, a strength coach, you have this, you have that. And you're giving these guys this, buffet option to kind of pick and choose what's going to fit them best. And they're going at that athlete's pace, but you're also putting them into that competitive atmosphere of those group structures. And that's so important. If you don't mind, I know I just rambled for a bit there, but do you have anything else to throw in?
No, you're exactly right. Very rarely, most of my lessons are 20 minutes long. Very rarely will I ever pop a kid up on the mound and have him pitch for 20 minutes. It might just be 2 or 3 to figure out, okay, where did he improve? What areas do we still need to focus on? Kids get better a whole lot quicker when they're not focusing on the outcome or where the ball's going. So we do a lot of patterning drills where they're going to hang on to something. Sometimes it's their glove. Sometimes it's a baseball. Sometimes it's their glove and a baseball. Sometimes it's a weighted ball, just depending on what we're working on. So, I have a lot of former college ball players who are dads who will bring their kid in. I just want him to work on mechanics. I'm like, well, I don't even know what he's capable of doing or how he moves. There's really no way to do that. You're just we're kind of wasting our time, spinning our wheels, just trying to work on mechanics, So, which is, I think, pretty much the industry standard. A kid comes in for a lesson, they can hop up on the mound and they throw for 30 minutes. So yeah, we just do things a lot differently around here, and then all of it is a tribute to Tom and what he taught us, and it works really well, as you well know. Right?
Yeah, and that's when you're saying industry standard. That's what I've noticed when I say that modern coaching is, on LinkedIn, I was going back and forth with a couple guys, posting some things on there, and nobody, whenever you put a big question out, that's kind of like I want to say a confrontational question, but you're trying to get feedback from people. Nobody wants to touch it.
No, you're right.
Nobody, but like finally somebody
stay
responded.
Away from that.
Yeah, finally somebody responded to me, and I was like, I on the lines. It was a couple months back. I posted a question on the lines of it's like, as a coach, do we really need to be the guru of everything, or do we need to be a jack of all trades? And I think coaches are more jack of all trades, because when you're dealing with a kid, you have to be his mental emotional coach. You have to be his nutritionist. You have to be his biomechanics instructor. And guess what? Even if you're doing all 3 of those things well, you can be like me and not get anybody out. Yeah. You're spending more time backing up third base at the end of the day. And that's where it's like, hey, I got to come to you to learn how to pitch.
Yeah.
So right now, everybody goes into these lessons and they're like, oh, it's just mechanics. I need to be the mechanics guru. And my one way of teaching is the only way to do it. And I'm going to draw that line in the sand. But one of the things I like, and, again, a lot of that comes from that mentorship under Tom, is he looks at it from that performance aspect. It's like, well, there's these different legs of the table, the tabletop, all these things. And it's like, I put that question out there of going, well, which one is most important?
Right.
And everyone's like, I'm not touching it. I'm just going to say, hey, I like your comment. I'm going to put a thumbs up on there where it's like, well, strength and conditioning, you have that guy. You have the chiropractor. Now you're adjusting some alignment. Maybe something gets out of whack with repetitive overuse. You're implementing arm care into that as well. So with that, how do you fold arm care into your strength and conditioning, your recovery, whatever it may be? Like, where does that fit into your system?
So it fits everywhere, quite honestly. And going forward, I won't take on a new client without putting them in the arm care program. And here's the main reason why. With all the information that's been thrown at me, working with Tom for 15 years, and you can kind of look at a kid and poke around his shoulders and ask him some questions about his health history and whatnot, and you can come pretty close to determining where his weak links are and whatnot, or what he really needs to focus on. Now the arm care does all that for me, right? And I don't have to spend time doing it with them because they can do it on their own. So I have 6 dynamometers sitting down on the counter down there. So when kids come in, they know if today's the day for their fresh test, or if they're going to do the arm primer, strength test, whatever they're going to do. It's all right there for them. And I love waking up every day and popping up my coach's portal and looking at seeing who did test and who's who's sore or who's losing strength and range of motion or whatever the case may be, and being able just to shoot them out a text and ask them like, okay, what's going on? What did you do yesterday? I had a D1 kid, can't remember what it was. His numbers just dived. So I texted him like, what happened? What were you doing? So he was doing long toss. He thinks he threw about 40 or 50 of them, maximum intensity. Then he threw a 70 pitch bullpen, which, that was middle of October, I think. I'm like, why are you throwing such a big bullpen and doing that much long toss? It's October. You're not going to be competing until, end of January at the earliest. So, I haven't been as excited about something in baseball as the arm care program since Tom's weighted ball program came out in like 2009, I think it was, right? Somewhere in that.
Yeah, right in that range. Yeah, I was part of that.
And I'm sure you're the same, Jordan. You probably get a lot of stuff thrown at you, a lot of gadgets and gizmos, and I'll take a look at them, and test a few out, but nothing's really piqued my interest like the arm care. And the results we're getting back so far are pretty impressive.
Yeah. With that, just on that topic, I know you're talking a little on technology. Obviously you're saying arm care, you're going to run every single player through arm care, just to kind of highlight, is there any other techs you're using? Like how else are you going about your development system?
You know what? I have Repsodo and a TrackMan, and I only use that during certain times of the year. I'm not a lot of people I think get caught up in all the spin rates and spin axis and all that kind of stuff, but it's useful information, I think, for the right individual, and if they're healthy enough to take advantage of it. But other than TrackMan, it's my iPhone. I take video of the kids. I try to do a little video almost every lesson because the kids today are such visual learners. So being able to I have a big screen right next to my mount, and I pop their video up on the big screen, and we break it down, put it in slow motion, and we try to focus on just one aspect of their mechanics. So as far as technology goes, there isn't a whole lot. I have a 3D motion capture system that's been in the closet for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. I know there's a lot of newer systems that are much easier, less cumbersome and whatnot. But I find that the models that they're using to compare everybody to is not correct, old, outdated, So as far as technology goes, not a whole lot on the mechanics side. The arm care stuff, basically, I'm going to rely a lot on the arm care program because what I've seen so far is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's we filmed a thing just a little while ago, Bart and myself, on getting yourself started without needing all this tech. And for me, it's like really the one thing that even if I didn't work for arm care, I would be investing in my players for dynamometry. I mean, we did it when I was with the Angels. We saw huge results with it. And then for me, I don't even think every minor leaguer needs pitch development tools. Some guys they have other things they need to work on when it comes down to it. Not everybody needs 3D motion analysis. No. I know we ran 3D motion analysis on everyone under the sun in professional baseball, but it's like in reality, this guy probably doesn't need that. Let's worry about some other stuff first. There's definitely good data to be gleaned, but it's for like the top 3 to 5% of those players that are out there.
Right.
And with that, now that I've noticed, Bart, I know we haven't really brought it up much, but since I filmed our little thing on drawing on the baseball, I don't know if guys are watching or stuff. Everybody's posting stuff on that now. I'm not saying I'm the trendsetter, but I probably am,
What was that about, Jordan? What did you do?
I filmed some stuff. I don't have the ball with me, but on like balls that were marked up and how you can just use your iPhone to film, see which direction it's spinning. Circles on the ball for your slider, your breakable ball, different things like that. And since we posted that, we've had a couple questions on it, but now I see everybody's posting stuff on there. So I'm going to take credit for being the trendsetter.
Wow.
Hey,
good for you. Great idea.
That was one of the most, it's definitely one of the most watched videos we have on TikTok. It's just putting that line on the ball and just saying, hey, this is all it takes. You
Yeah,
know,
you don't need all this expensive
No,
stuff.
you really
And then my
don't.
last rant on the expensive stuff. It's great if you're in that top tier of baseball.
Yep.
But also at that top tier baseball, I won't say organization names. I won't say anything else. But there was a high end starting pitcher in the American League East who reached out to me and he says, look, they're telling me my split finger sucks. I said, who's they? And he goes, our analyst who's running Rapsodo in our bullpens. And he's telling me my split finger sucks. And I said, well, you got about 8 years of data at the major league level that says your split finger is
good.
pretty dang good. Like there's not too many guys that are hitting that thing. I wouldn't change it. And he's like, yeah, you got a good point, you know? Yeah. So the technology is not always going to be right. And I remember I was just, you know, my dad will come help me every once in a while. He's retired now. He'll film stuff and use the radar gun. And one time we had one of our players who, you know, he's 82, 83. And then all of a sudden there's like an 87. He's like, oh, hey, there's an 87. I said, that's probably a misread. I'm not assuming this guy's just adding 5 miles an hour in the blink of an eye. You know, it's probably technology issue. He's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, you know, but you know, sometimes the technology, you know, while it gives us good measuring points, it's not always going to measure consistent and it doesn't always mean it's right.
Agreed.
So for me, it's like,
I trust my eyes a little more, especially over the Rapsodo. The numbers I see in there, I'm like, that's not what I'm seeing.
Just like when they tell this guy, hey, your split finger sucks. Yeah, go tell that to, you know, these 7 guys I just punched out 2 days ago. So
exactly. Yeah, crazy.
Well, hey, Mark, I wanted to ask you a question, being a parent myself. I'm sure you've had so many athletes going through there. If you could snap your fingers and have parents do this one thing, like how do you be a better parent for a kid who's actually competitive? Because I've got 4 kids. I got some that are going to be like ultra competitive and others that just want to be on the team and have fun.
Right.
And so as a parent, what would be your advice there?
Do some research. I mean, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of bad information out there, especially when it comes to pitching. So, but I think, you know, you have to trust your instincts, but I think them doing a little more research would probably benefit their kids a whole lot more. I don't know, my baseball's changed so much in the last 5 years with travel baseball. It's turned into a year-round sport.
Yep.
And the kids are paying a big price for that. So, I guess my number one thing would be, especially at the younger ages, make sure that they play other sports besides baseball.
Yep.
I see far too many kids who come in here who don't play anything but baseball, even at 12, 13 years old. When I was in high school, I played 4 sports, and, you know, I don't know, what did I miss out on by playing 4 sports? I think my athleticism improved a great deal. And I think that's one thing that's missing in a lot of today's younger baseball players. So, I'd say make them play multiple sports and do your research when you're looking for instruction. Probably
real quick on that with the multiple sports, because this is something now that I've left kind of collegiate and professional baseball and I've gone back, and as Bart knows, I'm working on a high school group right now. When you're dealing with multi-sport athletes, how do you fold them back into a baseball season? Because that's always an intriguing thing.
It's tough because every other sport wants them to be year-round training with them too. So like with our Canes, Illinois program, we try to accommodate the multi-sport athletes by telling them, look, if he's on the 17U team, if you only have Monday night available and the 15U team is in here, we still want you to come in. A lot of times you'll run into issues with them overdoing it, never taking time off. So just looking at a kid, sometimes you can tell, look, kid, you're in a deficit. You need to just do nothing for a couple of days, or at least one or 2 days a week. So we just try to tell them, look, it's basically an open gym, and whenever you have time, come in and do what you can. We'll give them little things to do too on their own when they do have some downtime. Like, the football players are just finishing out, and now basketball starting. So now our football players are coming in, and our basketball guys are leaving. But we have a lock keypad on our front door, and everybody has the code. So whenever they get a chance, even if we've had kids in here around midnight sometimes during the week, which obviously isn't very good either because kids at that age need a lot of sleep. But we just try to make it as accessible to them as possible. Yeah,
It's funny. Jordan's like multiple sports, get your sleep, and put
Yeah.
some damn weight on. Like half those kids are bean poles.
and
They're
eat.
13
Yeah,
years old. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, with my group, we just redid our second round of physical testing, going
Okay.
into our moratorium where we have our mandatory breaks for the high school seasons.
Right.
And everybody increased broad jump. Everybody increased all these strength measures were taken. Everyone's increasing arm strength like crazy. Then we measure it, and there's like 2 kids that gained weight. And then you get into it and you're like, why are you guys not gaining weight? We're gaining strength. That's awesome. But we need to be bigger overall. Strength is awesome. We're functionally stronger. We're raw strength and power stronger, but you still can't be 160 pounds. That's just too small when it comes down to it. They go, oh, well, we just haven't been eating. And it's like, imagine how strong you would have been if you were eating and if you were sleeping. So you're going to get me on a tangent, Bart, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But.
Yeah, I think the nutrition aspect is probably the most difficult one, because they have high metabolism. I don't know how good they're eating. They always tell us we're eating well. We always talk to the kids about, if you just cut out soda pop, that's going to be a big benefit to you.
And on a side note, that's how you can tell you're from the Midwest. You said soda pop.
I know, soda pop, Coke, whatever. But we try to talk to them about, you should have different colors on every plate, ideally something green for sure. And a lot of times I think it's time management too. They're so busy, and then you got schoolwork and dual parents out in the workforce. So who's making dinner? And I don't know, it's a tough one, but I think that's probably the biggest downfall with most of the kids I see is the diet.
Yeah, for the diet, one of the big things that I've noticed when players do it, when they buy in, because again, a lot of it is going to be on them for the nutrition aspect. There's only so much. I mean, I'm not following around to their kitchen.
Right.
I have a kid of my own. I can't be running around checking other people's nutrition 24 hours a day.
Right.
When it comes down to it is if they're able to just pay attention to those small details, that sets the habit. And then when they go to college, that's typically when the high school kid plummets, is that freshman year of college is a brutal transition phase to where they go, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much mom and dad actually did for me with the cooking, with the nutrition, that if they can learn this stuff 5% more than every other freshman they're competing against, they're setting themselves up for success.
Right.
They just let mom and dad do it all. They're setting themselves up for failure when they leave home, they get out of the nest, and now they got to go figure it out. And nutrition is so important. And I wish I would have known this stuff sooner, because I figured it out too late. By the time I started doing nutrition right, I went from like 155 pounds to 180 pounds in my last year of playing in pro ball. And then I started throwing upper 80s and touching 90 as opposed to like 48 miles an hour.
Right.
So for me, nutrition was huge. And I was like, I thought I was doing this well. To go on what you're saying, it's like, well, they keep telling me I'm doing well. It's like, yeah, I was eating good, but I didn't realize I was burning like 3,500 calories a day. So just, you don't realize how much you have to actually eat.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that's the missing link for sure, from what I see around here.
So Mark, you said you were logging into the Armcare app and seeing who's doing their training, who's doing stuff. Are the kids logging in? Are the parents seeing the reports? What's your take there?
You know what? Some of them are, and I haven't seen anybody come up with, show up with their PDF reports and ask me questions, but it's something that I want to implement and have them at least every 2 weeks print out a report. And then I want them to come in and tell me why and where are they deficient and what we can do to correct that. Because one of the things we do with a lot of our kids, we do spend a lot of time talking to them and educating them about doing the correct kind of exercises with the crossover symmetry and the hip and core belt and dumbbell work and close chain training and just everything. So it's something I need to implement. I've been onboarding so many kids that it's kind of monopolized my time.
Sure.
And now I think we're close to getting all of our Canes players on. So now it's just adding my private clients, which, a couple of new ones here and there every week or whatnot. So I'll be able to catch up, and we'll definitely spend more time on going over their reports. But oftentimes if somebody pops up in my wellness portal, I have a program called Snag It where I can get a picture of that report on my portal, and I text it to them and I say, hey, let's talk about this at P3. P3 is my class that I run up, Premier Pitchers Performance, that I run 3 times a week. So I'll text it to them, and then they'll come in and we'll talk about, okay, what happened here? Your ability to, you're fatiguing a lot quicker than you should. You lost 10% or 14% or whatever the number might be. So we discussed it a lot in that sense. But yeah, them printing out reports and becoming more familiar with everything that's involved with the arm care is definitely going to benefit them a great deal too. Just something I need to find the time to do,
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot in there, so it's like
There
you can
is.
either skim the top, which could be what some people need, or you can dive deep. So
right, yeah, I actually have one of my students who's certified through arm.
Cool.
Yeah, I wish I had more kids like that. So I might have to hire that kid when he gets out of high school. But he's been a client of mine since he was 7 or 8, I think. Wow. He's a senior in high school now. Actually,
real quick, I know we just were mentioning that you have an athlete that's certified. I know you've done the course as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind touching a little bit? Almost done. So it's a long course. It's not short. So it's impressive that kid's already certified. If you don't mind touching a little bit on that, like, is there anything cool you're gleaning out of that information, or?
Well, I think my biggest problem with it is just setting aside enough time to get through. I'm doing it in 10-minute snippets here and there. So no, but it's definitely opened up my mind to all the stuff that I've been doing, how much bigger it can get. How much more there is that I'm not doing, actually. I've been really fortunate. I was just thinking about this the other day about how many kids, like clients of mine, that had Tommy John surgery. And I'm sure my numbers are lower than most, but I think we can get even better with it, quite honestly. A lot of times what happens is my kids will go off to college and they're doing totally different programs there and things that they probably shouldn't be doing. Well, I think now that they're away at college and they have the arm care, I can still monitor them remotely, and it'll be a lot easier for me to keep those kids healthier, because that's typically where most of my kids get hurt, as they go off to college and they do a boatload of long toss or some other programs that just aren't as healthy as what we've been doing and what they've been exposed to. So
unfortunately, you're not the only one who has that same exact story.
Yeah. I just actually told a story to everybody this morning. One of my lessons went off to college, and he just actually about 3, maybe 5 days ago found out he's going to have a Tommy John full tear, needs to have reconstruction. But again, there was a lot of mismanagement on the coach's side, where this was when the injury occurred. It was in mid-September,
right?
And they had him pitch on a Friday in a inter squad game, pitch on a Saturday inter squad game, and they had him throw a bullpen on a Sunday, because they said, hey, we want to get our looks at you. You're throwing the ball well. So they start using him more. It's like, the season's not even started yet. What are we gaining out of this here? It's September. So, unfortunately, kids, and they're going, I can do that, because they want to be pleasing to the coach.
They're yes kids. Yeah, they want to please the coach. You're right. Yeah, they want to play. So they're going to do whatever the coach tells them. Yeah. But no, it's just kind of going through the certification. It's going to broaden my horizons and makes me think differently about kids that come in with issues, new clients, or kids that are saying, oh, you know what, I'm really sore in my tricep or my elbow hurts, or whatever the case may be. But now I can dig a little deeper without having to send them maybe to an ortho or whatnot, or a medical professional, rehab, what have you. But it's almost like Bart said, it's kind of, there's just so much information out there. And once I get a grasp on every little detail, I don't see any of my kids having issues, especially educating them though is a big thing too. And like Bart mentioned about reports, we do need to have, going to figure out some way to have a report session or something where everybody brings in a report, and I want you to tell me what you see in that report. So that might loosen the load a little bit for me too. I only get about 15 minutes every morning to look through the coaches portal and see who tested last and who's having some issues. But yeah, I'm really excited about the program and how it's going to benefit all my kids and the Canes players, and yeah, it's going to be exciting stuff.
Mark, do you have any athletes that are all virtual, or is everybody has to be in your local area?
You know what? I do actually have some kids who are remote. Well, pretty much remote. I have clients in Toledo, Ohio, Florida, Arizona, California. So yeah, the majority of that is remote. They'll come in once or twice a year.
Yep.
Actually, Belgium, kid from
Wow.
the Belgian national team. Yeah. Yeah, I do have some kids who I train just strictly remotely. And quite honestly, it works quite well. Typically those kids are a little more focused and know what they want. So most of a couple of those are high school kids, but a few of those are college players. So they're not getting their questions answered with their current coaches or whatnot, or instructors, and just looking for something a little different. And when they start to feel it and everything's working better, obviously it keeps them coming back. Okay.
Cool. Listen, hey, Mark, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on with us.
Sure.
If you're, my advice is if you're out there looking for, help, definitely look up Mark at Canes, Illinois, and Evolution Athletics, and just keep us. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, we will for sure.
Yeah.
I could talk all day long.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Till next time. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. All right. Later, Jordan.